Did struggling Manchester City stand any chance against an informed Liverpool? Is there any team that can realistically threaten Liverpool's title challenge? Is this Mo Salah's last season in the Liverpool shirt? And what does the phrasal verb to power through mean? Hello, audio listeners and video viewers. Welcome back to the Footglish podcast. My name is Zdenek Lucas. I'm an English teacher, and you're listening to a podcast where football meets English. Remember, with the Footglish podcast, you will never walk alone. Unless you're trying to outrun a bad pun, in which case, good luck to you. Here we break down the beautiful game and the language around it. So whether you are a diehard fan or just learning what a nutmeg is, we've got you covered. You will never walk alone with this podcast. See what I did there, Simon?
Impressive start. Start as we mean to go on. I like it.
Yeah, to be honest, I only did that because I know you are a Liverpool fan.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. And it is your debut on this podcast as well. So welcome.
Yep. You know, like fresh faced. I'm bringing some energy, some youth, some pace to it. Spice things up a bit. You got to give youth a chance.
That's exactly what we need. The old guard is tired, so we need the likes of you. Okay, Simon, we can see you are beaming with joy and pride as a Liverpool fan because yesterday you won a game which I would describe as a 6-pointer. It was the Liverpool-Manchester City game, which you won, in my opinion, in a very convincing manner. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit disrespectful to City to say it was men against boys, but it did feel a bit like that, you know, and it feels like perhaps the City team time has caught up with them a little bit. I know they've got injury problems, but they seemed to be outplayed, outclassed, outfought in every aspect of the game. They looked tired on many levels.
I agree. And I think you could see that result coming, especially given the recent run of form of Manchester City when prior to this game, they, I believe, lost, was it four games and drew one? So 5 games without a win for Manchester City. That's unheard of.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, this is just, you know, they're the definition of, you know, high performance, aren't they? You know, say what you like about where they've got the money from or other aspects of what kind of team or club they are. But when it comes to the crunch, they've always put out a team on the pitch that's gone out and steamrolled most of the rest of the Europe for many years now.
Exactly. Would you say this was the perfect time to play them then because of all this?
I suppose in theory, yes. But also a team like that, you expect some kind of backlash, really. You know, the sort of wounded animal, the cornered tiger, that kind of idea. But it didn't really appear. And when you look at that City team, it seems to be not devoid of talent. They've got the talent, certainly short of confidence, and maybe lacking in leadership a little bit.
Yeah,
On the pitch, certainly, and arguably off the pitch as well.
It's so different from what we have been seeing in the last how many years in the last decade, maybe.
Yeah, easily.
Right.
Yeah,
so I was really surprised. I couldn't see this coming. Maybe this result, yes, but I couldn't see this whole run coming because that just came out out of nowhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
Of course, there was this injury to Rodri, right? Which even before this happened, everyone was saying is the key player for City, and without Rodri, they are not the same team and whatnot. But Guardiola has always managed to replace even these big names. So this is really something new.
Yeah. I mean, a club like as good as that, a team as good as that, a management structure as good as that, you can't be dependent on one player being fit. he's a great player, and it's great to see a new name getting the Ballon d'Or as well, for a different kind of contribution to the game.
Yeah.
But is that all they had? Was Rodri? No, come on, But it reminds, as you'll see from the hair color, a Liverpool fan of many years. It reminds me sort of the Souness years at Liverpool. You've got aging players. The squad hasn't been replaced on a like for like basis. What's coming in isn't as good as what's going out, and you can only trade on past glories for so long. Really, it's a tough league. There's some great teams in there. All
Yeah.
kinds of different styles. Forest, playing a very different kind of style of football, but they're motoring at the moment. Brighton are top three. You've got Brighton, Brentford, and
Brighton are in the fourth place, I think.
is it fourth now? Is it? Yeah, yeah. So, it's a tough league. So you can't just be rocking up expecting to win. You've got to keep evolving your team. And like you said, Guardiola's always been great at that. It just feels like maybe they took their eye off the ball a little bit here.
That's a nice pun. Another nice pun. Yeah, so that's what we want here on the Footglish
Following your
podcast.
example, yeah. But it could have been so much worse yesterday. I mean, Van Dijk could have had a hat trick.
Yeah, he hit the post at one
Yeah.
point as well. Right? I remember that.
So I think they got off lightly, really.
They did. You were so dominant in this game. And if I'm honest, especially the beginning of the game, it sort of reminded me of the good old Klopp era. The way you sort of like went all guns blazing on them. That's something I haven't seen so much under your new manager, who has been doing an amazing job.
Incredible,
but I think he's a bit more pragmatic. He's got a bit more pragmatic approach compared to the previous coach. It's not being this heavy metal football as we got to know under Klopp. But this game, it seemed more like that again.
Yeah. Maybe the intention was to try and shock them at the beginning. You expect, let's just go out and blast them, and just see what they're made of, see how they respond.
Yes.
If they're lacking confidence, you got to play on that, really, haven't you? It's delightful. Couldn't have happened to a nicer shell company.
Yeah, I see what you did there. But to be honest, Liverpool now top of the league, 9 points clear of the second place, which is Arsenal, and only on goal difference ahead of Chelsea, who have exactly the same amount of points. And I think then there's Brighton and one more team. I can't remember which one now, but
Spurs are up there.
Oh yeah, Manchester City. Yeah, it's quite tight. Manchester City, I think, in the fifth place or fourth place. Yeah. It's quite tight, but it's not tight on the top. So
feels good, yeah. And I think it's thoroughly deserved as well. Based on the performance. And what is really interesting is it's sort of an advertisement for good coaching.
Yeah.
It's great to splash the cash, and I dare say we'll probably spend some money in January, I guess. But
not you and I. You mean no. Liverpool?
Yeah. I'm going to go out and buy myself Martin Zubimendi just to help around the house. The obviously the three elephants in the room are Van Dijk, Salah, and Trent's contracts.
Okay. I wanted to ask you. I had one question about Salah, especially Salah, because he has been the king, the Egyptian king of your team, right? And he's done so well. But now I heard a story that he has been sort of trying to subtly hint at the fact that he still hasn't got a new contract or something, and no response from the club. So what's going on there?
Who knows? Is it gamesmanship? Is it jockeying for position? I have no idea what goes into contract renegotiation, but
But he's your legend. Come on, he's your legend, and I know he's on big wages. Maybe that's the issue, right?
I mean, I don't think fitness is the issue, is it?
No.
Is it? I mean, he rips his shirt off. He looks fit as a butcher's dog, doesn't he?
Definitely looks fitter than me. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I've heard talk that Van Dijk and Trent don't want to be on less money than Mo. So the trick is someone suggested that they need to sort out Salah's contract, then they know what Van Dijk and Trent are going to cost
I
and going to
see.
demand as well.
It's like a domino effect there, and then
Yeah, quite possibly.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I have to ask you about an interesting moment in that game, perhaps the most interesting one for the neutral fans.
Mm.
Basically, at some point, your fans, and I don't know whether you were in the stands yourself or if you were part of this, or even you may have been the actual instigator of the whole thing. I don't know, the mastermind of this idea. But basically, your fans started to sing at some point, "You're getting sacked in the morning" to Pep Guardiola, the Manchester City coach. I don't think it had ever happened to this manager in his entire career that anyone would sing this to him. So, of course, his response was to show on his two hands number 6, which refers to not to 6 games without a win, as some as some newspapers pointed out, but instead it's the 6 titles, 6 Premier League titles he's won. So, so what do you think about this? Do you think it was just banter, or was it?
Oh
What
my
was
God. I
this
mean,
about?
some of the things, I mean, genuinely, some of the things get sung at football stadiums around the world. I'm sure it's not unique to England, but in England, there are some rude things that get sung. I believe Mr. Beckham had a lot of rude things sung about his wife
Really?
over the years. And then there's obviously at the more abhorrent end of it. There's some of these disgraceful chants that go on about Heysel and Munich and things like
The
this.
worst things are the racist stuff, in my opinion, right? That's the worst,
Of
right?
course,
And then when
absolutely.
somebody's like saying you're getting sacked in the morning, like compared to that, that's quite innocent. I know it's
Yeah,
targeted at one person, and this person
yeah.
it doesn't probably make this person feel like good about themselves, but still, it's
I
part of
mean,
football, I guess.
he, you know, I think he's in a bit of a tetchy place at the moment. These are uncharted waters for him, really, aren't they? As certainly in
Yeah.
the Premier League and probably for a long, long time. Um, so yeah, he's a little bit sensitive at the moment, and fair play to him. Yeah, he has won 6 titles, so it was a good response. I think it
I
was
think so too. I think he was
taken in the spirit it was given.
I think
So
he had every right to do that. Like this is the kind of response you would expect from someone like Jose Mourinho, but
yeah,
Guardiola, I guess, is a similarly emotional coach, and fair enough. He was also on record as to say that. What did he say? He said that he finds this disrespectful,
yeah.
or did he say that I don't want to spread
I think he
some?
was surprised that
He was
Liverpool
surprised. He
fans
was
had
surprised. Yeah.
stooped to that level. He
Right.
expected it elsewhere, but he thought Liverpool fans were a different breed.
Mm, mm,
It's. I mean, you see this though when managers get towards the end.
yeah.
This sort of stuff comes out. The classic one from my generation is Kevin Keegan at Newcastle losing it when Man United were catching up with them with the whole "I'd bloody love it if we beat them."
Yeah.
And Benitez going on about these are the facts, when he was talking about other teams. So,
Right.
and Klopp's not been immune to a few outbursts either. So I think, this is such a high pressure job.
It is.
You don't like losing 6 games in a row when you're playing under 13s, let alone when you're, one of the most successful managers of all time. So it's
Yeah.
it's got to hurt a little bit. He's got to be a bit
I think so.
frustrated.
And you know what? I think these emotional managers, I think that also means that they have empathy and
Mm,
they can be good man managers. They can talk to their players. So I think this is still better than being some sort of distant, cold-hearted manager,
mm.
because maybe that kind of manager wouldn't respond, or it would be like what's the expression, like water of duck's
A duck's
back.
back. Yeah, yeah.
But
Seems to work for
yeah.
Ancelotti though, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah.
when we absolutely battered them midweek as well. You didn't see him. I mean, first of all, he'd struggle to have enough fingers to show how many trophies that guy's won.
He needs to be a mutant.
Yeah, he's like an octopus or something.
Yeah,
But
something like that.
you know, everyone reacts in different ways. I think in the past, Guardiola has always he's never needed to react because his team have always reacted
Exactly.
for him. And what's happening now is his team is just not responding to what he wants them to do.
Hmm.
You know, it's a combination of things. Maybe it's time for fresh voices. You know, the new ideas. Maybe it's someone else's turn to take the team on. Maybe he
Yeah,
needs
but
to go somewhere else and work with different people. We'll see.
that's the thing. Like, this is never gonna happen. Like, he's just signed a new contract there. Like, they're never gonna fire him. Like, even if this happens like 3 seasons in a row, because he's
Yeah,
just so much credit in the bank that
yeah,
it's just unthinkable.
yeah,
And he is also not the kind of manager, in my opinion, who would just give up easily. I
yeah.
think he doesn't, like, no manager wants to leave like when they are at their lowest,
Mm.
right? He wants to leave as a winner. He wants, like
Absolutely.
Alex Ferguson did, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think the saddest one many years ago was when Brian Clough was in his final season with Nottingham Forest, the team that, you know, has won
Hmm.
2 European Cups. It's insane.
Right.
But his last season, as you know, alcohol kept caught up with him as well. The team was just and they ended with relegation. It's like,
Oh yeah.
don't really deserve that.
It,
That's not the note to end on. But when, like you say, when you've got that kind of legacy, like Guardiola has as well, this is going to be a blip for them. You know,
that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. How long do you think this is going to last?
I mean, I'd be afraid to play them next. I think every team who's coming up against them must be thinking they're not going to keep losing, are they? Surely not. You know, they could put 9 past someone, couldn't they? You know,
They
it's
could,
just
but they are fragile now. You can see it. They are fragile.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
You got
so
to
so
fancy your chances against them.
exactly. So my next question is, who do you really fear as a Liverpool fan now? Okay, 9 points. I know it's a comfortable position to be in, but
Hmm.
it's not over, right? It's not over yet. Let's be honest. Anything could happen. Uh, you could experience a bad run as well. It can happen
Of
to
course,
anyone.
it's bound to
So
happen.
who
It's going to happen at some point.
I'm not saying it will, but it
Hmm.
could. Like,
Yeah.
there's a realistic possibility of that happening. But in that case, who do you fear the most?
You got to look at teams that can score goals first of all. And 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said this, but Chelsea look like they're turning into something quite intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, they have the potential to just power through teams sometimes, and maybe
Hmm.
by having like a million players on their books, you know, they've got an entirely different squad for for the European game. So then the people who are playing in the Premier League are only playing a handful of games in comparison. So I don't think fitness or injuries will be a problem.
No.
Cohesion was the concern before, but they look like they can put 3 or 4 past people when they fancy it. Arsenal obviously have got the quality all round. They're solid at the back, and again they've got goals all over the pitch. Havertz is scoring quite regularly now,
Yeah.
which was always sort of seen as the Achilles heel of the team. But actually, he's come
I
to the
think
party, hasn't he?
it
So
was more of, he wasn't so trusted
mm,
as an incoming transfer.
yeah,
So the fans were very skeptical about him, but he won them over really quickly. It took
mm.
a few months, and then yeah, he hasn't been a liability at all,
No,
actually,
far
at
from it. Far
Arsenal.
from
Far
it.
from it. He has done really well. Arteta found a place for him, and he has flourished since he left Chelsea. Yeah, where he was, I think, just on a decline. Now
Yeah.
at Arsenal, he's been great.
I mean, I think big thing for us is going to be injuries and fitness. You know, it's that's why I hope there's a bit of cash to be spent in the new year. You know, so far they've managed to get their transfers right. Chiesa hasn't quite worked out,
Yeah.
but it was a risk worth taking. But yeah, as long as if we stay relatively injury free, I don't think we can be stopped.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't think
calling it early.
you can be as the Liverpool team, but also you as the Liverpool fan, you have been as fit as a fiddle here. Thank you very much for being the guest. And one more thing, you're even fitter than we realized, because you told me before we started recording that you're about to run a marathon.
Yeah, London Marathon, April next year, less than 150 days to go. Seemed like a good idea at the time when someone asked me if I would do it through work and for our works charity. And yeah, every time I go out and go for a run, I'm reminded of how hard it is.
So how many kilometers are you on currently? Like when you train, like how many do you do normally?
I mean, it's little and often at the moment. These old
Okay.
bones need nursing through the training.
I
So
know
yeah,
what
I'm
you
getting up
mean.
to
Yeah.
13, 14 kilometers, something like that.
That's decent. The most I've ever done was 22, and and when I did that like 5 times in my life, and I knew I wouldn't want to do another 22
Yeah,
after that.
I'll come back on in April and tell you how stupid an idea it
but
was.
but I think the difference here is like when it's like a big event and you will be full of adrenaline for that. There will be fans. There will be other runners. I think that can push you. I believe so. Like if
Yeah,
I had been in that position, maybe I would have run longer. But it just starts hurting. Your body starts hurting at that point. But I think you can do it. You can definitely. You just need to train for it. I think that's the
yeah.
main thing.
I
But
ran
who is
one 15 years ago, and it was in
There you
Prague.
go. There you go. In Prague,
And
even. Huh?
the thought of a Czech beer at the end got me rolling.
Nice one. Now you have won me over, and you're definitely coming on again when Liverpool win the title. We will have you back here and
Nothing
celebrate
better than
together.
a smug Liverpool fan, is there? Everyone likes how modest we are with our celebrations.
I mean, to be honest, you're not the worst. If I you're an opposition fan, of course, and if I look at your fans and your club, yeah, I don't mind your team. Yeah. No,
High
like there are
praise
worse
indeed.
worse teams than yours. All right, Simon, thank you very much and
Right.
take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Language Corner. You know what this is about? This is about the English language. Today I'm going to be explaining some interesting phrasal verbs from the interview that I did with Simon about the Liverpool Manchester City game. What are phrasal verbs, I hear you asking? Well, phrasal verbs are a type of verbs which have two and sometimes more parts, but usually two. And the first part is the verb itself, and the second part is what we call a particle. Now, the problem with the phrasal verbs is that there are a lot of them, and they often have a meaning which is not very obvious from the meaning of the verb itself. When it's in the combination with that particle, it kind of changes the meaning completely. Not all the time, but very often. So that's why this is often something English learners fear, and rightly so. It's not easy to master phrasal verbs, and that's why I am here to help you with them. Of course, we're going to be talking about football because this is the Footglish podcast. So you will be learning phrasal verbs in the context of football. Okay, Simon said at the beginning of the podcast, I am bringing some energy, some pace to spice things up. So if you spice things up, then you make something more interesting or exciting. For example, an English teacher could be teaching an English class full of students, and the students are bored, and the teacher has got a trick up their sleeve and come up with an activity that makes everyone active again in the classroom. They spice things up with, charades or a board game or whatever, right? So to spice things up. It feels like perhaps this City team, time has caught up with them. So we were talking about, or Simon was talking about the fact that Manchester City have had a lot of injury problems and stuff like that, and now time has caught up with them. If something catches up with you, it basically means that something bad that you have done or something that has been happening to you finally sort of begins to cause problems for you. Maybe it didn't at first, maybe it was okay-ish, at the beginning, right? But if you let it be the way it is, if you don't deal with the problem, if the problem isn't resolved, then at some point it will catch up with you, right? So to catch up with someone. And then Simon also was basically describing the Manchester City Liverpool game, and he said that Manchester City actually got off lightly. If you get off lightly, it means that you are treated in a way that is less severe than expected, right? Maybe you deserve bigger punishment. For example, if, in this case, basically Manchester City only conceded 2 goals, but Liverpool had a lot of chances. Virgin van Dijk hit the post, and they could have easily put 4 goals past Manchester City. So Manchester City actually got off quite lightly. And you could say the same if a criminal is sentenced to, several years in prison. Maybe this criminal committed a heinous crime, a very serious crime, but then in the end got off lightly. Maybe in the end this criminal only got 3 or 4 years for a murder or something like that, yeah? Okay. If they're lacking confidence, you've got to play on that, haven't you? So basically, Simon acknowledged the fact that Manchester City have been lacking confidence recently, and that you have to kind of capitalize. You have to take advantage of the fact that they don't have confidence. You have to play on that. If you play on something, for example, somebody's feelings, you make use of these feelings to your advantage, right? Often. So this is what it means. Mm-hmm. Then Simon was talking about Mohamed Salah. He said, if he rips his shirt off, he looks fitter than a butcher's dog, which is a lovely little comparison there, little idiom actually. So to rip your shirt off, or to rip any parts of your clothes off, means to remove it very quickly and carelessly without thinking about it. So when a player celebrates, right, a scored goal, they often rip their shirt off. They take it off really quickly in order to celebrate. Often they get a yellow card for that. So if you rip your clothes off, then you remove your clothes very quickly and carelessly. Okay. And then what else do we have here? He's not the kind of a manager, in my opinion, who would give up easily. That's what I said. I'm sure you know the phrasal verb to give up. In this case, it kind of means to stop trying, stop hoping that a particular thing will happen. You kind of stop fighting. You stop believing that you could turn it around and leave on a high. You just kind of give up, Yeah. And the last one, Chelsea, they have got the potential to power through teams. So that's an interesting phrasal verb, to power through something. If you power through something, you continue in a strong and determined way until the end of something, even when this is difficult. So often in difficult times, in war, the soldiers have to power through, right? They have to power through the battlefield. I don't know. The teams that are going through some difficult times, they have to power through. And Chelsea, they seem to have the potential to power through teams. That's what Simon said. So they can keep fighting, even if things get difficult. They have the potential. They have the potential to basically win games. All right, well, I guess that's it for today. And before I say goodbye to you, I would like to ask you kindly to support the Footglish podcast by going to the YouTube channel and leaving a like there or a comment. It would really mean a lot to me. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening, and I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.